The first scream came from Pump 4. I didn't hear it at first. The night wind always howled through the highway signs, and the hum of the fluorescent lights above the pumps blurred everything into one lonely drone. But when I looked up from the counter, I saw a figure out there. A woman, frozen in the blue glow of the station lights. Her mouth was open, hands trembling around the gas nozzle. Nothing came out. The hose slithered like it had a pulse, then the lights flickered, once, twice, and she was gone. Just gone. Only the nozzle remained, dangling from the pump, dripping something thick and dark that wasn't gasoline. I stepped out into the cold air, whispering to myself, not again. The hum grew louder, pressing on my skull. From somewhere beneath the pump, I thought I heard it breathing. My name's Eli Navarro, night clerk at the EverRest Gas and Deli, exit 63 off Route 19, the last stop before the forest eats the road. Everyone calls it the dead route. The old-timers say once you pass that sign, next service is 47 miles, things get quiet in ways they shouldn't. The manager, Carl, used to joke that we were the last light before nothing. But ever since the rainstorm last fall, the lights don't stay on the same way. The hum never stops. The first disappearance happened 2 months ago. A trucker, then a couple heading north. Now a woman at Pump 4, I told Carl. He said, "You've been on the graveyard shift too long, kid. Go home, sleep." But there's something wrong with that pump. Every time someone uses it, the numbers on the screen jitter. The fuel counter blinks symbols that aren't numbers. Once it showed a name, Eleanor. I don't know an Eleanor. Tonight, though, the smell was worse. Like burnt metal and old blood. The cameras don't help either. Static rolls whenever someone stands near Pump 4. And last night, for 2 seconds, I saw myself on the monitor, standing outside, staring back in, except I hadn't left the counter. "Hey," a voice called from behind me. It was Tom, the overnight delivery guy, pushing in a crate of sodas. He was sweating even though it was freezing out. "You look like hell, man." I forced a laugh. "You heard about that lady? The one at Pump 4? He froze mid-step. "Has she come back?" "What?" "Never mind." He set the crate down and rubbed his arm. Don't mess with that pump tonight, Eli. Just don't." I stared. "Tom, what do you—" He was already walking back out. Didn't even close the door behind him. The wind moaned through the open frame like something alive. I glanced at the monitor again, Pump 4. Someone was standing there, a woman. Same one. At first, I thought it was the camera glitching again. But when I stepped to the window, she was still there, thin in a soaked white jacket, head tilted slightly to the side like she'd been caught mid-thought. She didn't move when I called out, didn't blink. When I finally stepped outside, the sound died, all at once. No hum, no wind, just that dry crackle of the lights. "Ma'am," I said. My voice sounded too small in the stillness. She didn't answer. Then the gas pump clicked off. I glanced at the meter, 0.00 gallons. "Zero more. The hose hung loose, but the nozzle was wet. Ma'am, are you okay?" She turned her head slowly toward me, and her eyes caught the light. They weren't empty. They were reflective, like polished metal. "Do you work here?" she asked, voice trembling but clear. "Yeah, She smiled too wide. "Good, someone has to stay." The lights above us flickered again. When they came back, she was gone, just like before. But the smell, that sharp, metallic rot, it lingered. Inside, the intercom crackled. "Pump 4, it hissed, the voice warped but familiar. "It's low again." I backed away. "Who is this?" The static pulsed, like breath. "She's waiting." Then silence. The old gas station radio came alive next, a faint whispering between stations. Words buried in static. He opened the line. "She never left. The fuel isn't for cars." I pulled the plug on the wall. The static kept going. Something alive was using the wires. Later, I found the maintenance binder, yellowed pages, Carl's handwriting. There was an old work order for Pump 4 dated 1998. Seal cracked during installation. Employee recommended shutdown. Ignored. And under that, a note written in someone else's hand, almost carved into the page, "Do not open the line again." They feed through the hollow. I didn't understand it then. I wish I hadn't, because when I checked the fuel level in the underground tank later that night, the gauge was full. But we hadn't had a delivery in 3 weeks. Something was filling it from below. Around 3 a.m., headlights cut through the fog. A car rolled up to pump 4. I ran out to stop it, waving my arms. "Hey, pump's closed!" The driver, a man in a gray suit, rolled down the window. His eyes were glassy. "You still open?" "Yeah, but not that one. Use another pump." He didn't move. They said it had to be pump 4. "Who said that?" "The voices." Then he smiled and I saw gasoline pooling down his chin. I stumbled back, slipping on the wet concrete. The pump turned on by itself, numbers spinning fast, faster than possible. The hose whipped free, spraying dark liquid. When it hit the light, it shimmered red. He got out of the car, walking like a puppet. "They're hungry. Get back!" I shouted, grabbing the emergency shutoff. It didn't work. The numbers kept spinning. The pump whining, the ground rumbling like something enormous was breathing beneath us. Then, beneath the hum, faint but real, a voice whispered up through the grate. "Feed it. Or it feeds on you." The ground split, just slightly, a crack between the pumps. Vapor rose, smelling like burned oil and rot. I ran for the station door, but it slammed shut before I reached it. The glass reflected the fluorescent light, and behind me I saw the woman again. Her skin was translucent now, her mouth moving but no sound coming out. The man in the suit fell to his knees, whispering, "Forgive us." The hollow needs more. Something dragged him down, like invisible hands, pulling him through the crack. His scream echoed in the metal piping beneath the concrete. Then the pump clicked off. All the lights turned red. The radio whispered. Again, "Eli, open the valve." My hands were shaking. No, you can't. You already did." And then I remembered. The first night I worked here, the line that was leaking. Carl had told me to patch it. I'd twisted the valve open to release the pressure. I'd opened it. The floor trembled again. I looked down through the grate. Beneath the station, something moved. Not liquid, not machinery. Something alive. It breathed through the pipes. It fed through the fuel, and I had opened its mouth. The last thing I remember was the pump exploding, not fire. Just sound, a scream made of static and pressure, tearing through the night. Then black morning light leaked through the blinds. Carl was standing over me. "Eli, you okay? Place looks wrecked." I tried to speak, but my throat felt raw. "Pump 4? Yeah, I saw." "Must have shorted out," he sighed. "Cleanup crew's on the way." He turned to leave. "Oh, and Eli? Yeah?" He smiled, too calm. "Thanks for keeping it open. You did your part." The way he said it froze me. When I looked out the window, pump 4 was spotless. The crack in the concrete was gone, but the meter was running. Joan Dewan, 002, 003, no hose, no customer, just the pump, breathing softly in the morning air. That night, when I went home, my hands still smelled like gasoline, and in my dreams, I heard the intercom crackle again. "Pump 4's low, Eli, time to feed it." The cooler door hissed when I opened it, the kind of cold breath that bites your skin, but the thing inside wasn't supposed to breathe back. I leaned in to grab a soda, the fluorescent light flickering overhead. For a second, I saw movement behind the stacks of bottles, a dark shape shifting, then settling. When I squinted closer, I saw condensation forming on the inside glass. Only it wasn't fog, it was handprints, small ones, pressing from the inside, and faintly, through the frost. A child's voice whispered, "It's still hungry." "Mister, I wasn't supposed to be here tonight. I was covering the graveyard shift for some kid named Eli. Manager said he had an incident a week ago and hadn't come back since." Carl, the boss, smiled too easily when he handed me the keys. "Just keep the pumps running, Devin, and don't open anything that's leaking." We both laughed, but his eyes didn't. The EverRest gas and deli sat off Route 19. Same lonely strip of cracked asphalt that cut through empty pine and fog. Nothing around for miles but trees that leaned too close and a road that swallowed sound. The sign flickered, "Midnight Shine." The missing letters swayed in the wind. Inside, the place smelled like bleach and old oil. But the cooler? It smelled different, like rain trapped in metal. First hour was quiet. Just the hum of the lights, the low rattle of the cooler fans, and the faint static from the radio that refused to turn off. Then, around 12:43 a.m., the temperature dropped, fast. The cooler door fogged up again, even though the thermostat said 38 degree. I wiped the glass with my sleeve. Behind the rows of soda bottles, Something was moving, not crawling, breathing. I grabbed my flashlight and opened the door. Cold air spilled out like fog rolling over my shoes. "Hey, Carl," I said through the walkie. "You got a raccoon problem back here or something?" Static, then his voice, faint and slow. "Stay out of there, Devin." "What? Why?" He didn't answer, just one word. "Feeding." The light flickered, once, and I saw it. A shape crouched in the back of the cooler, pale and slick, skin like glass stretched over wires. Its face, if it was a face, and was pressed to the floor, drinking something seeping from the drain. It didn't look up. Not until I said, "What the hell?" Then its head snapped around, and it smiled with Eli's face. I slammed the door shut, heart hammering. The handle burned cold against my palm. I backed away until I hit the counter. "Not funny," I said to nobody. The thing inside the cooler pressed its hands to the glass. The same small prints from earlier, only now they stretched, fingers thinning, spreading, growing. It mouthed something I couldn't hear. The fans inside whined higher and higher, a pitch that made my teeth ache. When I grabbed the radio again, the static turned into whispers. He opened it. He let the hollow breathe. "Feed it cold. Keep it quiet." The cooler door rattled, and then I heard it, from behind me this time. The same whisper. "Devin." I turned. The CCTV monitor behind the counter flickered to life, showing the cooler camera feed, but it wasn't showing the inside. It was showing me, standing outside, staring at the cooler door, and behind me in the footage, the door was open. I spun around. It wasn't. Closed, frost creeping around the edges, but the air smelled like metal again. Then the power dipped. The lights buzzed and went dim. When they came back, the cooler door was cracked open, just an inch. Something wet dragged across the tiles behind it. I reached for my flashlight, hands shaking, and called out again. "Carl!" The cooler. His voice returned through the radio, lower now, strained. "Don't go near it. Just listen." "To what?" "To what it says it wants." The whispering grew louder, coming from inside the cooler, but also from the vents, the intercom, the air. It formed words. "Feed us what you keep cold, and you'll stay warm." I didn't understand. Then I noticed the drain under the cooler door. Thick red liquid was seeping out, slow, steady. I stepped back, gagging, but the smell wasn't blood. It was gasoline, the same metallic oily scent from the pumps. I remembered what Carl said about leaks. I grabbed the maintenance binder from the drawer. Pages yellowed, some ripped. Eli's name was on a shift note, his handwriting frantic. "If you hear them whisper in the cooler, lock it. Don't listen. The pump feeds them, but they're starving for warmth." They found a new mouth. I looked up. The cooler door was wide open now. The cold light inside flickered, and the floor tiles shimmered with something slick. And in the reflection, I saw her, a woman in a white jacket, soaked, eyes shining like glass. She smiled. "We remember you." "Eli," I whispered. "I'm not Eli." She tilted her head. "You will be." The lights blew out. Every bulb in the ceiling shattered. Raining glass. The radio screamed. One long tone like feedback, and the cooler door slammed shut behind me. I didn't remember stepping inside. But I was there now, surrounded by humming metal and mist. The floor was alive beneath my boots, vibrating softly like it was breathing. Shelves rattled. Bottles burst one by one, spraying soda and something darker. Then I saw them. Shapes pressed inside the frosted glass walls. Faces, hands, bodies. Their mouths were moving in unison. "Feed the hollow." One hand, impossibly thin, reached from the drain and wrapped around my ankle. I kicked free, slipped, hit the floor hard. When I looked up, the faces were gone, only frost, and written across it in dripping letters, "Eat or be fed." The drain gurgled again. Something pushed up from it, not liquid, flesh, a wet, pale arm reaching. Then another. I scrambled for the door handle. It wouldn't move. Through the frost, I saw the woman again, outside the cooler now, watching me. Her eyes were metallic. She mouthed, "Stay warm." Then the vents screamed. Cold air poured in, so cold my breath froze in midair. The thing from the drain rose higher, a head forming out of the frost. Eli's half-melted face staring at me. "You shouldn't have come back for the shift." I slammed my shoulder against the door again and again until it cracked open and fell through. The station was dark, every screen flickering static, gasoline smell everywhere, and the pumps, all four this time, were running, the numbers climbing in unison. 1. No, 2. Someone 3. The ground rumbled. The drain under the cooler split, glowing faint red. Voices rose from below, more mouths. More heat, feed. I grabbed the emergency shutoff lever by the wall, the same one Eli must have pulled, and then I hesitated. The whispering stopped. The air held still, waiting. In the silence, something behind me breathed out. Warm, wet, human. A voice, right in my ear. Thank you for keeping it open. Morning light cut through the windows like nothing happened. Carl stood by the counter, sipping coffee, humming to himself. The cooler was spotless. The drain sealed. He smiled when he saw me. Rough night? I nodded, throat dry. You knew, he shrugged. We all take our turn. Keeps the station alive. I looked outside and at the pumps. They were all clean now. No leaks, no stains, but the meters were still running. I walked closer, pressed my hand to the glass. The hum beneath my palm felt like a heartbeat. Carl came up beside me, voice low. Every shift needs a keeper. Eli fed it first. Now it's your turn. I turned to face him. His eyes caught the morning light, silver, reflective, just like hers. Welcome to the midnight shift. That night, the cooler hummed louder than ever, and somewhere beneath the tiles, the hollow fed again. At 2:14 a.m., the vents started whispering again, not the usual hum or rattle. This was speech. Words sliding through the static like a dying signal. I froze mid-swipe, mop dripping onto the tiles. Don't let it breathe in. The voice was soft, almost kind. Then another one followed, lower, closer. Too late. It already knows you. I dropped the mop. Something moved in the shadows above the ceiling vent, and for a moment, I saw a face pressed against the grill, eyes where no eyes should fit, and when I blinked, it was gone. My name's Marla Briggs. New hire, night clerk, EverRest Gas and Deli, Route 19. Carl said the last guy quit mid-shift, left the lights on and the cooler open. You're not superstitious, right? He asked, handing me the keys. Nope, I lied. He grinned. Good. The others were. The job seemed easy enough. Keep the pumps running, clean the floor, make sure nobody steals snacks. But the air inside the station felt wrong from the start. Too heavy, too still, and the smell, like rain that never dried. By midnight, the hum in the vents was constant, deep and steady, like something enormous was sleeping in the walls. I turned up the radio to drown it out. It didn't help. The static between songs matched the rhythm of the vent noise perfectly. When I turned the volume down, the whisper filled the silence again. Feed. The air. I tried to laugh it off, but the sound got stuck in my throat. At 12:37, I saw a movement in the CCTV feed, a blur near pump 4, a tall figure leaning into the air vent on the side of the building, too thin to be human. I stepped outside, flashlight in hand. Fog clung to the parking lot, thick and damp. I swept the light across the pumps. Nothing, but the side vent was open. The grill bent inward, and from the darkness inside, warm air was breathing out. I shut the vent with a broom handle and called Carl. Hey, I said. The vent outside's busted again. You got raccoons or something? His voice came through distorted. Not raccoons. Don't touch the vents. Just keep them closed. Why? They pull things in. The line went dead. When I came back inside, the air was colder. The mop water had frozen over, thin ice cracking beneath my shoes. I turned toward the ceiling vent. Condensation dripped down like sweat. Then, faintly a giggle echoed through the duct, a child's laugh. I stepped closer, flashlight shaking. Hello? Help me, the voice whispered back. It's cold in here. It sounded like a little girl. I pulled the stepladder from the storage closet, climbed up and shone the light into the vent. Something small scurried back. Too fast. Too human-shaped. My light caught a flash of wet skin. Then a hand reached out, pale, shaking, nails cracked to the bone. Please, the voice whimpered. Let me out. I froze. Who are you? No answer. just the sound of shallow breathing from the dark. I climbed down and called the sheriff's office. The dispatcher sounded half asleep. Route 19 again? Yeah, we've had calls from there before. Nothing ever there when we check. I saw someone, I insisted. A kid in the vent, she sighed. Lock up the station, ma'am. Stay inside. The line crackled with static. Then the voice that came through wasn't hers anymore. Don't close it. We can't breathe if you close it. I threw the phone. The dial tone kept whispering. Around 2 a.m., the humming got louder. The vents throbbed like lungs. The air tasted metallic like oil and copper. Every few seconds, the lights flickered in sync with the pulse. On the CCTV monitor, shadows moved between the aisles, not shaped like people. Long, insect-thin. I locked the front door and backed toward the counter, and then, through the vent, I heard it. A new voice. Familiar. Marla. My name. You're next. I turned, and on the monitor I saw her. The woman in the white jacket, standing in front of the station, eyes glowing faintly in the fog. Her mouth moved, but the words came from inside the vent above me. Open it. Feed the air. The vents burst open all at once. Cold air flooded the station, sweeping papers and receipts across the floor. The hum became a roar, and from the ceiling ducts, something crawled out. It looked like mist at first, then it thickened. A body taking form out of vapor and frost. A face stretched out of it. Eli's face. Pale and hollow-eyed. His mouth opened wider than humanly possible, and from within, dozens of voices screamed in unison. Breathe us in. The vents rattled, sucking air inward, like a reversed scream. I fell to the floor, covering my ears, but the sound was inside my head. The air pulled at me, dragging my hair upward, tearing at my clothes. The station was breathing. The whole building was a lung, and I was trapped inside it. The mist face hovered above me, shifting through forms. A woman, a man, a child, all melting into one mass of cold vapor. He opened the line. She opened the door. You open the air. I crawled toward the emergency shutoff, the same red switch by the wall. It pulsed faintly in the dark. The voices screamed louder. Don't close it. Marla, you'll suffocate us all. I slammed my hand on the lever. The power died. Silence. Total. Heavy silence. Then, from the vent above, a slow, wet sound, like something dragging itself back inside, and the faintest whisper, now we'll breathe through you. The sheriff found me sitting outside the next morning, frost clinging to my jacket. The station door was wide open. Inside, no footprints, no damage, no sign of struggle, but the vents were wet, every single one of them dripping a clear, oily fluid. Carl showed up an hour later, calm as ever. Marla, he said, you okay? I nodded slowly. There was something in the vents. He smiled faintly. There always is. As the repair crew replaced the vent grills, I noticed something strange. Each panel had small teeth marks around the edges. Tiny, human-shaped bites. Carl patted my shoulder. If you want, I can move you to the day shift. I stared at the vents. No, nights are fine. He smiled wider, too wide. Good. The air likes you. That night, as I sat behind the counter, the vents started humming again. But this time, the sound came from inside me. Every breath I took felt borrowed, and in the hum of the air conditioning, I could hear their whispering, soft, endless. Grateful. Thank you for letting us in. The glass between me and the night was supposed to keep things out, but around 1:08 a.m., something tapped on it. 3 slow knocks that left a trail of condensation instead of fingerprints. I looked up from the register and saw a man standing outside the station window. He wasn't moving. He wasn't blinking, and when the lights flickered, I realized the reflection in the glass didn't match him. His real body stood still. His reflection smiled. My name's Don Keller. I took the graveyard shift at EverRest 2 nights after the vent girl quit. Carl said they'd had some trouble, but wouldn't explain. He tossed me the keys with his usual half-smirk. Windows get weird after midnight, he said. Don't stare too long, I laughed. He didn't. The highway was silent that night. No cars, no wind. Just a dull electrical hum that settled over everything. The overhead fluorescence washed the world in pale blue. Inside, the glass panels that wrapped around the store were spotless, freshly cleaned. Yet the longer I looked at them, the more they seemed to move. The reflections lagged by a second, like bad footage. I told myself I was tired. Then the glass whispered. At 12:42 a.m., I caught my reflection breathing when I wasn't. Inhale, exhale, a fraction too late. I rubbed my eyes, grabbed my phone to record, but every photo came out warped. My reflection stretched and grinning, teeth like cracks in ice. The hum in the lights deepened. The glass panels trembled softly, as if something was leaning against them from the other side. That's when the knocking started again. I stepped closer, wiping condensation from the inside. Outside stood the same man, tall, in a soaked gray coat. Head tilted forward. "Station's closed," I called. He didn't react. The intercom crackled. A voice bleeding through. "Let him in." It was Carl's voice, but slower, drawn out like tape winding down. The man outside lifted his hand and pressed it to the glass. His palm was too flat, the skin pale like wax, and from inside the glass, my reflection pressed its own hand back, meeting his perfectly. The pane flexed between them. Then the reflection smiled again. I stumbled back. The man outside whispered something I couldn't hear. The letters fogged against the window. "Open him." I ran to the breaker room and killed the exterior lights. The window went black, reflecting only the interior, me, trembling. But in the reflection, the man was behind me now. I spun around. Nothing there. When I looked back at the glass, my reflection was alone again, but its head turned a few seconds after mine. I called Carl. "Some guy keeps showing up." "He's not." "Right." Silence. "Then, don't break the glass, Don. That's the skin of the place." "The what?" "Every reflection's a door. You break one, they all open." The line cut out. The window vibrated. Thin cracks spiderwebbed across the surface, glowing faintly blue. The reflection lifted its hand and knocked from inside. I dragged one of the metal shelves against the pane. Each knock grew heavier, rhythmic. Boom, 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 shaking the bottles. On the CCTV feed, I saw it clearer. The man outside was gone. But the reflection remained, hammering from inside the glass, begging to be let through. The whisper rose from the vents, from the cooler, from the floor itself. He opened the line. She opened the air. You opened the sight. The glass bulged inward like something breathing through it. The first pane shattered at 2:03 a.m. No sound and just pressure, like the air being sucked out. The shards didn't fall. They hovered, suspended in place, reflecting 100 versions of me, each moving slightly out of sync. From the shards, figures stepped out, mirror copies, hollow-eyed, their mouths wide with silent screams. I backed into the counter. "Stay away." They spoke together, voices overlapping like static. "We've been watching too long. We want to see for real." Each reflection twitched forward, merging, reforming into him, the man in the gray coat. He smiled with my own mouth. "You keep the light on for us." He reached out. His hand slid through the air where the glass had been. Fingertips cold as metal, gripping my jaw. Look closer. When I blinked, I was inside the reflection. Everything reversed. The station flipped. The clock running backward, my breath fogging on the inside of the pane. Outside, another Don stood where I'd been, staring in horror. He touched the glass. I touched it back. Then he turned off the lights. Darkness swallowed me. Morning sunlight spilled through the windows. Carl unlocked the door, whistling softly. "Don?" No answer. The station looked normal, except for a faint haze on the inside of the front glass. The shape of a man's handprint. He wiped it with a rag, frowning. Through the pane, his reflection smiled at him. Just a second too late. Carl paused, then nodded to himself. "Another one keeps it running." He locked the door and flipped the sign to open. That night, the new clerk arrived. She waved at the window to see her reflection. It waved first. The radio started talking before I turned it on. It whispered under the static. Not music, not news. Just a voice. "Do not answer the call." At first, I thought it was interference from a passing trucker's CB, but then it said my name. Rita. I froze, holding the coffee pot midair. The lights flickered once, twice. Then the radio dial twisted by itself to 108.3. The voice came again. "Clear now, you're on the line." And the phone behind the counter started ringing. "My name's Rita Hammond, 36 part-time night clerk at EverRest." When Carl called asking if I could cover a few shifts after Don went missing, I said yes, mostly because rent doesn't pay itself. He didn't tell me Don disappeared inside the store. The first thing I noticed was the smell. Not blood, not rot. It was ozone, like a thunderstorm that never came. Carl said the lights had been flickering for days. The glass still carried faint scratches shaped like handprints, but no one mentioned it. He left right after counting the till. "Phones might glitch," he warned. "If they do, don't pick up." He laughed after saying it, but it wasn't the kind of laugh that reaches the eyes. The shift started quiet. A few trucks rolled through. One guy bought jerky, another just stared at the frozen section until I told him we were closing soon. After 1 a.m., silence. I played with the radio to fill it, tuning between stations, half expecting music, half expecting something else. That's when the whisper started. It rose from the static, words forming slowly like a signal cutting through fog. "You shouldn't be here." "Rita," I leaned close to the speaker. "Who is this?" The voice hesitated, then whispered back, "You." The radio light pulsed like a heartbeat. Every time I reached to turn it off, a burst of static hit my chest, like it didn't want me to. I unplugged it. It stayed on. The clock above the register froze at 1:16 a.m. The second hand ticked backward, skipping a beat every time the radio whispered, then came the ringing. The old wall phone buzzed with a deep electrical hum. I hesitated. Carl's warning echoed, "Don't pick up, but curiosity's a sickness." I lifted the receiver, static, then breathing. "They can hear us through the line." "Who's this?" "Don't look at the glass." The voice was mine. I dropped the phone, but it didn't hang up. The cord twisted, wrapping itself tight, coiling like a snake. Every surface in the station began to buzz. The freezer doors, the soda fridge, the display mirrors. The hum synchronized with the radio. "EverRest connects us all," said my voice through the static. Every word, every echo. I grabbed the breaker switch, but the lights dimmed before I touched it, and from the reflection on the cooler door, another me stared back. Not copying, watching. I ran for the exit. The automatic door refused to open, red light blinking overhead. Through the glass, the highway flickered like a bad projection. I screamed. The radio replied, "Do not answer the call." Then the phone rang again. Louder, sharper, the sound splitting the silence. I ripped the receiver from the wall. It still rang, even disconnected. The air shimmered. Static particles dancing like dust in sunlight. Then I heard multiple voices overlapping, some crying, some whispering, all bleeding through the same frequency. Line 1, trapped. Line 2, waiting. Line 3, watching. And beneath it all, Carl's voice. Faint but distinct. It's not the radio. It's the relay. The sound erupted. A single tone that filled the room and made the shelves vibrate. The phone wires sparked, spreading arcs of light across the floor like spider webs. Every reflection in the store came alive. Distorted faces pressed from inside the glass. Mouths open in silent screams. The radio dial spun uncontrollably. Voices flickering through. He opened the sight. We opened the line. Now open the mouth. The static condensed, forming a human outline near the counter. A silhouette made of white noise. It stepped toward me, each movement crackling like tearing tape. "Rita," it said in my voice. "You called?" I threw the radio at it. It exploded into a burst of static and sparks. The shape wavered but didn't fade. "Hang up," it hissed. "Or answer forever." The phone started ringing again from everywhere, from the vents, from the fridge, from the light bulbs. "EverRest needs voices," the thing said. Silence breaks the line. It reached for my face, and I screamed into the static, "I quit!" Everything stopped. The lights flickered once, twice, and then burst. Darkness, silence. Only the hum remained. Morning came. Carl found the station quiet, untouched. The radio sat unplugged on the counter, perfectly still. The phone cord was melted into the floor, fused like plastic. He played the voicemail from the night before, a recording of me, whispering into the phone. Do not answer the call. He sighed, pocketed his keys, and reset the breaker. The lights buzzed alive. A new clerk arrived that night. Carl smiled. Phones might glitch sometimes, he said. If they do. He didn't finish the sentence. Behind the counter, the radio light blinked once. A faint voice whispered through the static. Line 4, connected. It started with a drip, not from the ceiling, from underneath the floor. The first drop came up through the tile, clear as water, then darkened, spreading like ink. When I bent down, it whispered, "Don't step here." I stumbled back, my boot catching the corner of the mat. Another drop rose, thicker this time, and beneath the linoleum, something moved. "My name's Trevor Mills, ex-mechanic, night clerk at EverRest." Carl said he needed a man who doesn't scare easy. I said sure. I'd seen wrecks, oil fires, even pulled a guy out from under a flipped semi. "Nothing gets to me anymore," he grinned. "You'll fit right in." The store was too quiet. The hum of the fridges had a rhythm, a pulse. The lights flickered like they were breathing. Every shift since dawn vanished, Carl changed something. New locks, new bulbs, new paint. But no matter what he fixed, the smell stayed, damp metal and static. That night, the floor felt warm under my boots. At first, I thought it was the heater. Then the dripping began. It came from under the snack aisle. Slow, deliberate. Plip, plip, plip. I knelt, pressing my ear to the floor. The tile was vibrating faintly, as if something was moving in the crawl space. "Carl," I said over the radio, "you sure this place doesn't have pipes running under the floor?" "Not anymore," he answered. "Why?" "There's leaking." A long pause. "Don't touch it." The sound grew steadier. When I moved closer, the air turned cold, breath fogging under the neon lights. Then a small puddle formed by my boot, dark red under the fluorescent glow. I swore under my breath, grabbed a mop, and wiped it up. The puddle vanished, then reappeared a foot to the left. Probably some busted drain line, I muttered. The radio crackled again. Carl's voice came through, distorted. "You're standing on the wrong side." "What does that mean?" "Don't let it smell you." The line went dead. At 1:47 a.m., the lights flickered twice and held steady, too steady. No sound, no hum. Just silence, then something scraped under the floor, long. Wet dragging noises circling below the aisles. I froze, watching the tiles pulse with faint bulges as the thing moved beneath them. A soft gurgle rose through the cracks. Then I'm whispering, "We built it to hold them." I looked down. The puddle was wider now, rippling with slow breaths. Through the liquid reflection, I saw faces, dozens, blurred, mouths open. Floating in blackness, I stumbled back, dropping the mop. The puddle spoke again, in overlapping voices. Dawn opened the sight. Rita opened the line. "You'll open the ground." I grabbed the breaker switch near the counter. No power. It was already off. The fridges started humming again anyway, louder this time. The sound wasn't mechanical. It was alive. The tiles split. A slow gush of black liquid pushed up, thick and shimmering. It smelled like rust and ozone. Something was forcing its way through. The floor erupted. The tiles cracked open. And a mass of tangled limbs and faces rose out, like people melted together, all whispering in sync. Their skin was pale gray, dripping fluid, eyes empty and wide. They crawled upward, dragging themselves by the shelves, leaving trails of thick black sludge. "We were buried here," they hissed. EverRest built on what can't be buried. I backed toward the counter, heart pounding as the first one reached out. It looked half human, a woman's body fused with another's, their mouths sharing the same breath. The ground remembers. I grabbed the fire extinguisher, smashed it against the emergency door glass. Nothing broke. Behind me, the puddle spread like a heartbeat, pulsing faster. The whispers turned to screams. "Join the foundation." The figures moved faster, crawling over one another, forming a shape, a tower of bodies, stretching toward the ceiling. From its center, a face formed, Dawn's. "We keep it standing," it said. "Every shift, every life." The ground split open, a hollow pit beneath the tiles, filled with hundreds of unmoving clerks, eyes glowing faint blue. I fell backward as the tower reached down, its many hands grasping for me. I screamed, kicking, clawing, trying to pull free, and suddenly, silence. The lights flicked off. When they came back on, the floor was clean. Perfectly white, no puddle, no crack. Only my reflection staring up from beneath the tile, pounding to get out. At sunrise, Carl entered quietly. He looked around, sighed, and set down a new help wanted sign near the counter. He crouched and ran his hand over the tiles, which vibrated faintly under his touch. Still warm, he whispered. He stood, flicked the lights off, and locked the door behind him. Outside, the asphalt shimmered with faint wet patches, though the sky was clear. Down below, under the store's foundation, the whisper began again. Dozens of voices breathing in sync. EverRest stands. EverRest feeds. And in the dark beneath the floor, Trevor's hand pressed weakly against the concrete. The drip started again. Plip, plip, plip. I was filling the generator when the fuel caught fire without flame. The gas shimmered, glowing faint blue, and my reflection in the metal can looked back with its mouth moving, whispering something I couldn't hear. Then the pump started on its own. The handle locked. Pouring fuel, though I hadn't squeezed. Each splash on the concrete hissed and evaporated, leaving behind shapes, handprints, and from inside the underground tank came knocking. Name's Elias Ward. Late 30s, trucker by trade, or I was. Until my rig blew a gasket outside Briar's End. Carl found me sleeping in the cab at 3 a.m. "You're in luck," he'd said. "Night shift just opened up." I told him I didn't know how to run a gas station. He said, "It runs itself." The pumps were ancient, chrome faces scratched with years of grime. The smell of old diesel hung heavy in the air, mixed with the faint scent of ozone. The others had warned me, in half-finished rumors at the diner. Don's gone, Rita's gone, Trevor's gone. I didn't believe in curses, just faulty wiring and bad luck. But when I touched pump 3 that night, it was warm, pulsing faintly, like it had a heartbeat. The night started normal enough. A few customers, all quiet. At 1:11 a.m., everything changed. The power blinked. The pump meters zeroed out, then displayed strange symbols. Not numbers, but letters. FEEDI frowned, tapped the screen. The symbols shifted. US. Then all 4 pumps turned on by themselves. The hoses twitched, snapping against their cradles like snakes. I stepped outside. Wind picking up through the night was still. A faint shimmer rippled over the asphalt, an invisible heat from beneath it. Something was breathing. Fuel began to rise from the nozzles, thick and black, defying gravity and flowing upward instead of down. I dropped the hose, stumbling back. The fluid hung in the air, hovering in long threads. It wasn't fuel anymore. It smelled like charred earth and burnt copper. Then, the sound began, faint voices whispering inside the flow. He opened the sight. She opened the line. He opened the ground. "You'll open the fire." I backed into the wall. "Carl, what the hell is going on?" I shouted into the radio. The static cracked. "Do not light anything. I'm not lighting anything." "Not you. Them." The hoses snapped upright, all 4 pointing at me like rifles. Fuel sprayed, except it wasn't hitting the ground anymore. It hung midair, shaping itself. Faces forming from liquid, mouths open, whispering, "We burn what burns us." I ran for the emergency cutoff. The lever stuck, vibrating in my hand. The pumps howled. The numbers on the meter spun wildly, climbing past any logic. 99, 900, 999, 99, 99, 999, 99, 99, 99. Then letters again. BLEED. The ground shook. The air grew heavy and hot, shimmering. Through the haze, I saw a figure standing by the far pump. Don? Rita? Trevor. They were burning, but no smoke, no smell, no flame. Just glowing outlines, flickering like ghosts caught in heat waves. Each mouth moved, forming one word, EverRest. I stumbled toward the road. The horizon rippled. Black shapes crawling across the sky like smoke. The entire gas station glowed faintly blue. Heatless fire crawling along the canopy. Carl's voice cracked through the radio again. "You have to ground it." "How?" "Cut the line to the tanks. Beneath pump 3. I sprinted, yanked open the maintenance panel. The valves were ancient, crusted with grime. As I turned the first one, the fuel hissed, screamed, like something alive. The voices rose in unison. "You can't close what feeds." The tanks erupted from below. A geyser of black fire shot upward, silent but blinding. Within it, figures writhed, silhouettes of every lost clerk, burning without light. Their eyes glowed faint blue as they reached for me, whispering through the static, "You'll keep the fire running." The ground split open, swallowing Pump 3 whole. I ran for the door, but the heat bent reality itself. The air rippled. The light stretched into ribbons. Inside the glass door, my reflection was burning, skin melting into light, but my real body wasn't. The reflection raised a hand, touched the glass, and grinned. "It doesn't burn us. It burns through us." Then it stepped out. The light consumed everything. The pumps, the road, the sky. No flame, no smoke. Just a hollow brightness that left no shadow. Morning. Carl pulled into the lot. No scorch marks. No damage. Just the faint smell of ozone and a warm hum beneath the asphalt. He knelt near Pump 3, pressing his hand against the ground. It vibrated faintly. He sighed. "Still running." He stood, flipped the sign from closed to open. A new driver pulled in, engine sputtering. Carl smiled thinly. "First fill-up's free." As the driver lifted the nozzle, the pump flickered, blue light flowing through the hose. The radio behind the counter turned on by itself. A whisper. "Calm, almost kind, the fuel doesn't burn." The bell above the door chimed at 3:03 a.m. No cars outside. No headlights, just the sound of the door opening and a man stepping in from nowhere. He was pale, dripping wet even though the night was dry. He smiled too wide and said, "I never got my receipt." Then the door shut behind him and the bell didn't stop ringing. "I'm Marla Dean, night clerk number 7, though I didn't know that when I took the job. Carl said I'd be covering the quieter hours. He didn't mention that those hours stretched wrong, looping back on themselves. When I clocked in, the register already had a sale logged. 1 gallon of fuel. Time stamped 3:03 a.m. Thing is, I started at 11 p.m., and it had already been 3:03 twice. The hum of the fridges had gone soft and hollow, like they were breathing in time with something underground. The glass panels still bore faint outlines of palms, frozen mid-knock. By now, Briar's End itself was half deserted. Locals said EverRest's lights never went off, even when the power grid died in the last storm. Carl told me, "Just serve whoever comes in. Don't check the clock. Don't open the back door." So when the bell chimed, again, I froze. The man stood near the counter, dripping steadily onto the tiles. His shirt was soaked dark, heavy. His eyes looked hollowed out, like the sockets had been scooped and refilled with shadow. I forced a smile. "Long night?" He nodded. "Been driving a long time? What pump were you at?" 3. Pump 3. The same one that exploded in that fire Carl swore never happened. The man smiled again, thin and slow. "Just came back from my receipt." The register beeped, unprompted. Paper fed out, blank, then printed words on its own. "Total, 1 life due." I stared. "That's not funny." Didn't mean it to be. He tilted his head, water dripping from his chin, hitting the counter with hollow thuds. Each drop left a dark mark that didn't fade. "Look, sir, maybe you owe me change." He placed something on the counter. A coin, warped, burned black around the edges. The smell of fuel and static filled the air. The receipt printer spat again. New line appearing under the first. Change given, void. The man turned toward the glass. In the reflection, his body looked wrong, stretched, flickering between forms. "They won't let me leave." "Who?" I whispered. He smiled. "The ones who keep the light on." Every fluorescent bulb in the ceiling flickered at once. The fridges clicked open. Whispers filled the aisles. He opened the sight. She opened the line. He opened the ground. He opened the fire. She'll open the door. My stomach dropped. I backed away, but the man was already moving closer. Slow, patient, dragging his soaked boots. He raised a hand, leaving streaks of dark liquid on the glass door behind him. The bell above it trembled without wind. "Let me out." "Marla." I hadn't told him my name. I lunged for the phone. Dead tone. The clock on the wall clicked backward. 3:02, 3:01, then 3:03 again. The man pressed his forehead to the glass, whispering something I couldn't hear. I stepped closer. "What?" He looked up. "You already let me in." The lights cut. Darkness swallowed everything but the faint glow from the cooler. Through it, shapes moved, not shadows, but echoes of people. Repeating actions, seconds late, filling pumps, mopping floors, answering calls that never came. Each figure had no face, just blank light where eyes should be. The man reached out, hands still dripping black. "We keep the door open now." He grabbed my wrist, skin cold, sticky, my arm burned, veins glowing faint blue under the skin. I screamed and tore free, stumbling back toward the counter. The register was printing nonstop now, page after page spilling onto the floor. Each one read the same. Receipt void. Transaction repeated. Receipt void. Transaction repeated. The bell above the door rang again, but the door didn't move. Then every reflection in the glass turned toward me. All of them, Don, Rita, Trevor, Elias, standing together in the dark behind the man, their voices layered into one. "EverRest never closes," the man smiled, eyes hollowing into light. "Your shift starts now." He handed me the burned coin. It pulsed warm in my hand, heartbeat sinking to mine. When I looked up again, he was gone, but the bell kept ringing. Morning. Carl stepped inside, brushing dust from his coat. Marla wasn't there. The register was empty except for a single blackened coin and a stack of blank receipts. He sighed, picked up the coin, pocketed it, shift complete. The lights flicked once, humming softly. Outside, the pumps started by themselves, across the street. The townspeople watched, doors locked, curtains drawn. They said the EverRest lights never went off, and if you listened closely after midnight, you could hear the bell ring every 3 minutes, exactly 3:03. The floodlights above EverRest hadn't gone dark in 13 days. Even when the town's power grid failed again, the pumps still glowed, the sign still buzzed, and the sky above the station shimmered faintly green. No one went near it anymore, except for me, because my father's voice was still coming through the CB radio. 13 days after his funeral. "Stay by the light, kid. Don't let it go out. I'm Eli Ward, volunteer fireman for what's left of Briar's End. We used to say the EverRest Gas and Deli was the town's pulse, a place that never slept. Now it feels like a wound that won't heal. The cops sealed it after the incident. The doors chained, the windows blacked out, and the pumps disabled, except every night at 3:03 the lights flared to full brightness, humming loud enough to rattle the houses 2 streets away. We tried cutting the main line. Sparks blew the transformer clean off the E. While we tried tearing down the sign, it melted the crowbar through my gloves, and now the dead are talking through the static. At first, we thought it was interference, broken frequencies looping through CB Channel 9. Then I heard it, Dad's voice, calm and tired. "Eli, I left something in the locker. Bring the light." He'd been shift manager when he vanished. His truck found parked behind Pump 3, engine running, driver's door open, headlights still on. That night the air was thick as soup, the smell of burnt ozone mixed with gasoline. I parked on the shoulder, flashlight in hand. The glow from EverRest painted the mist in pale yellow. Alive, breathing. Each bulb buzzed like an angry insect. And then I saw him, standing by Pump 3, my father. He looked unfinished, skin like overexposed film. When I shouted, he lifted a hand, not waving, just pointing toward the office door. The same door Carl had welded shut after Marla disappeared. I stepped closer. My radio crackled. "Locker, 17. His voice stuttered, fading under a wash of static. "Dad, don't look at the glass." The windows along the storefront trembled, faintly fogged from the inside, handprints visible, like someone was watching. I tried the door, unlocked. The chains were still in place, but they hung open, cut clean through. Inside, the smell hit me first, damp metal, ozone, and something sweet, like rot behind the counter. The floor was covered in paper receipts. Each one bore the same timestamp, 3:03 a.m. The cooler lights pulsed faintly, flicker, flicker, and every few seconds the intercom crackled, replaying fragments of old conversations, snippets from people who worked here before. Rita mopped the aisle again. "Elias, count the drawer. Don't open that." Each voice faded before finishing. I followed the hallway to the back. The air felt thick, electric. Locker 17 sat at the end, the metal dented outward like something had tried to escape. I opened it. Inside was a flashlight. Simple, old, engraved with the initials DW, Dad's. I clicked it on. The beam cut clean through the gloom. But what it revealed made my throat close. The shadows weren't following the same angles as the light. They bent toward me, and in every reflection, freezer glass, metal panels, even the glossy floor, faces pressed outward, whispering in unison, "Keep the light alive." I stumbled backward, slamming the locker door. Something pounded from inside it, once, twice, then silence. The flashlight buzzed hot in my hand. The bulb began to pulse, bright, dim, bright, in time with the humming ceiling lights. My radio hissed again. "Eli, the light burns them, but don't let it see you." I turned. The reflections had moved closer. One, Marla's, I think, tilted her head, eyes empty white. Her mouth opened wide, stretching until the corners tore. Shift never ends. Every bulb above me exploded in sequence, showering glass like rain. The door slammed shut. In the mirror of the cooler, the EverRest sign glowed red instead of white. Letters twisted into new shapes. EverLast. I ran for the front, but the floor had changed. The tiles warped soft, sinking under each step. Beneath the surface, outlines of faces pressed upward, mouthing silent words. I aimed the flashlight at them. The beam burned holes straight through, until the faces screamed and vanished into static dust. Then the radio spoke once more. "Son, you have to keep the light. Don't let it die. Dad, where are you?" Silence. Then, right behind you, I turned and saw my own reflection smiling back, holding the flashlight, but the beam pointed into me. They found my truck idling at dawn, the driver's door open, radio still on Channel 9, repeating static. Inside the EverRest station, they found nothing, just a melted flashlight fused to the counter, faintly glowing in the dark. The town decided to cut the power lines permanently. Didn't matter. At 3:03 every night, the lights still flicker on, and the radio signal hums with one voice. Distorted but steady, keep the light alive. Now the entire grid hums with that same tone. Street lamps, traffic lights, porch bulbs, each one pulsing faintly in unison, like a heartbeat beneath the town. And if you watch long enough, you can see shadows moving between them, traveling through light instead of darkness. Because in Briar's End, the dark isn't the danger anymore. It's the light that won't die. At 3:03 a.m., every light in Briar's End turned on. Porch lamps, street lights, headlights of rusting cars that hadn't run in years. Even the candles in the church, long since, melted to nubs, flared back to life. And at the edge of town, the EverRest gas and deli buzzed to life one final time. The sign no longer read EverRest. It said, "Everything must stay. I'm Deputy Mara Heller, last surviving officer of Briars End PD." The station's phones have been ringing for 3 nights straight, calls coming from numbers that don't exist anymore. Most of them whisper the same thing before cutting out. "We're still on shift. We evacuated everyone who'd go." That left 15 of us, and the EverRest still humming like a generator plugged into hell. The mayor said, "Burn it." The chief said, "Wait till daylight," but there is no daylight anymore. Just gray dawn that never brightens, like the sun refuses to look this way. I keep seeing flashes on the horizon, green flickers where the gas pumps used to be. That's where we're headed now. I told the others. We finished this before 3:03. We parked half a mile out in case the radiation rumors were true. The air smelled of scorched rain and copper. As we approached, we saw the first wrongness. The ground itself seemed to breathe, pavement flexing beneath our boots. The sign flickered in that sickly green glow, buzzing, melting, then reforming, over and over. EverRest, EverLast, stay, EverRest. The glass doors were gone. In their place, a black shimmer. Like oil over water, from inside came faint sounds, the beeping of a register, the soft drip of fuel, the voice of someone quietly laughing. We stepped through the black curtain. Instantly, the air changed, too heavy, too still. The shelves stretched into infinity, stocked with identical cans of soup and motor oil. Each label showed the same thing, fuel for staying, And at the far end of the counter, Carl. He looked older, thinner, but alive. Or pretending to be. "You're late, deputy," he said. "Shift started hours ago." "Carl, where's everyone else?" He smiled, teeth faintly glowing, working. "Same as always." Then I heard them, the others, shuffling in the aisles. Familiar faces, gray and flickering like old film reels. Rita, Elias, Marla, even Eli, each repeating the same motions, stocking shelves, mopping floors, scanning blank receipts. I tried the radio. Dead. "Carl, we're shutting this place down." He chuckled softly. "You can't. EverRest isn't a place." "Mara, it's a promise." He gestured toward the ceiling. Fluorescent lights burned so bright they seemed to melt through the roof, revealing a pulsing network of veins, glowing, alive, spreading across the town like roots. It feeds on time. Every shift, another hour gets caught. That's why it's always 3:03. I drew my gun. "Step away from the counter." Carl's smile widened. "Too late. You're already clocked in." The lights dimmed. The aisles started folding inward, looping endlessly. Every direction led back to the counter. My team split up, but wherever I turned, I found them again, walking in circles, whispering, their radios bleeding static. "Keep the light alive. Shift never ends. We serve the stay." I fired once into the ceiling. The sound didn't echo. It just absorbed, like the building swallowed the noise. Then the world blinked. Suddenly I was behind the counter. Register open, my badge gone, replaced by a name tag that read, "Hello. I'm Mara, on duty." Carl leaned close. His face was splitting, skin peeling into light. "You've been here longer than you think." He placed a blackened coin on the counter, the same one from every story before. It pulsed once, then again. Each throb synced to the heartbeat in my neck. The bell above the door began to ring, slow, heavy, endless. And outside, through the black shimmer, I saw Briar's End collapsing inward. The houses, the streetlights, the forest, folding into the station like paper burned from the edges, everything dissolving into light. "It's time," Carl whispered. "EverRest never closes." The floor fell away. I fell through aisles that stretched forever, past the ghosts of every worker before me, each one repeating the same motions, each one whispering the same word, "Stay." I hit the ground, or something like it, the concrete breathing beneath me. The ceiling above looked like a sky full of receipts, fluttering, burning. Then I saw the register display. Total sales, 10 shifts complete. New manager, Mara Heller. Carl saluted, his body disintegrating into light. "Welcome to the family." The last thing I remember was the hum growing louder, until it wasn't sound anymore. It was thought. It was everything. Dawn came, or what passes for dawn now. Briar's End is gone. The maps show nothing between Highway 9 and the lake. But sometimes, travelers say they see lights in the mist, a gas station where there shouldn't be one, glowing faint green. If you stop there, the clerk greets you kindly, eyes tired but polite. She'll ask if you're passing through. If you say yes, she'll smile and hand you a receipt. It'll read, "EverRest Gas and Deli. Thank you for staying." And if you look closely at the reflection in the window, you'll see the whole town behind her, still working, still stocking, still ringing up the same sale, always 3:03, always open.